All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. So the talk of the bodybuilding community right now is Big Ramy, and he always seems to be the talk of the bodybuilding community as we get closer to the Olympia every single year. Usually he leaks some sort of off-season picture or video where he's looking freaky and big, and everybody freaks out and says he's going to be the next Mr. Olympia. Now, I already made a video about this maybe a month or 2 months ago, but I'm going to go ahead and rehash kind of what I think about Big Ramy with the recent video that surfaced on Louis Marco's channel. So I got to give Louis props. If you haven't seen that video yet, Bader Budai and the folks over there at Oxygen Gym, they sent Louis Marco an exclusive video of Big Ramy posing in that back room there at Oxygen Gym, and he looks absolutely amazing in that video. He looks like a cartoon character, man. He looks like a freaking cloud. He's so round and full in that video, but at the same time, he's super grainy and he looks like he's in very good condition. But again, at the same time, just like an insane amount of roundness and fullness in all his muscle belly. He looks crazy. He doesn't even look real in that video. So ever since that video surfaced, I've been getting all kinds of comments and messages asking me for what my opinion on Big Ramy is. Do I think he's going to win the Olympia 2017? Do I think he's going to win the Olympia ever? And do I think he has the potential to get even better than he already is? So to answer the first question, I don't think he's going to win the 2017 Olympia. I'll say that right now. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I remember a couple years ago, I think it was either going into the 2014 or 2013 Olympia, when Big Ramy had a massive hype train going behind him. Everybody was saying he was going to win the Olympia that year. He was looking freaky. He was posting pictures in the off season looking gigantic like he's doing now. It was basically the exact same thing that's happening right now. The Big Ramy hype train was at the peak of its popularity, and everybody was talking about how he's going to destroy Phil Heath because he's just way too massive and nobody can handle what Big Ramy is going to bring to the stage. However, I believe there's a variety of factors that are going to prevent Big Ramy from winning the 2017 Olympia, the biggest of which I believe is politics. Now, if you want to live in a fairy tale land and believe that there's no politics involved in the judging of the IFBB or NPC for that matter, I'll let you go ahead and keep living that dream. But the reality of the matter is politics are and have been at play in the judging of IFBB competitions for the past, 50 years. Ever since the IFBB started the Mr. Olympia competition in 1965, politics have pretty much factored into most of the decisions that were made for Mr. Olympia winners from the 60s all the way up into the 2000s present day. So the number one thing that I think is working in Big Ramy's disadvantage is the fact that he is not American and he does not speak English. Now, if you don't believe speaking English is a barrier to winning the Mr. Olympia competition, then go ahead and name the last Mr. Olympia winner that did not speak fluent English. Go ahead, I'll wait. So I'm guessing you couldn't think of anybody. That's because there haven't been any. There have been no Mr. Olympia winners that cannot speak fluent English, especially in the 2000s in the age of social media. Look at Phil Heath, for example. Look at all the things that Phil Heath does and is able to do by the fact that he speaks English, how many seminars he goes to, how many guest posings he goes to, how many expos he goes to, how many videos he makes giving tips and tricks to his fans, on a daily basis, how many people he interacts with in English. The reality of the situation is, and I said this in my last video, the NPC is the #1 amateur league that feeds into the IFBB. There's no amateur league bigger than the NPC that is feeding into the IFBB. Now, there are people that come from other countries, absolutely. They compete in other countries and end up coming over to the IFBB, but to do that, they have to come over here. Well, by the rule book, what they have to do is come over here and go through the NPC and then get to the IFBB. Now, granted, there are plenty of bodybuilding federations that are professional bodybuilding in other countries that are not the IFBB. To get into the IFBB, you have to compete in the NPC, national show, whatever, and then get your pro card. So just look at the NPC. What does NPC stand for? National Physique Committee. Now, what nation are they referring to? They're talking about America. So the NPC is based in America. It's the #1 amateur organization that feeds into the IFBB. So the whole basis of the IFBB is basically on being American, because the whole amateur league that feeds into it is based entirely on the idea of nationalism in America. So do I think Big Ramy has a physique that deserves to win the Olympia? 100% absolutely yes. But unfortunately, and I've showed this on my channel many, many times, a physique alone is not enough to win the Olympia. I'm not saying the Olympia is rigged. I'm not saying you have to have the judges in your pocket. I'm not saying you have to pay people off. But I am saying there are other factors at play besides just having a good physique that factor into whether or not you win the Olympia. You got to be likable, you've got to be able to communicate with your fans, and you've got to be a good representative of the IFBB. And as I said, even though the IFBB is technically an international entity, it's based right here in America with the NPC, the #1 amateur league, feeding into it. So even though they claim it's the International Federation of Bodybuilders, it basically revolves around America and speaking English. That's where their primary demographic is. This is where they're making all their money. Obviously, these promoters make a shit ton of money at these NPC shows by promoting them, and they get these hundreds of competitors, and obviously they're all American competitors. And the IFBB pros serve to kind of, grow that amateur rank. The amateurs want to become an IFBB pro, so they do all the amateur shows, and the amateur promoters make all the money. And all that money made at all these NPC shows eventually funnels back into the IFBB because they're basically one and the same. So basically the NPC funds the IFBB. So back to the point. Mr. Olympia is somebody who is representing the IFBB. So when they pick somebody to be the representative for their organization, they want somebody that is going to be beneficial in a financial way and in kind of like a public relations PR way. They want someone that's going to be able to communicate effectively and sadly make them money. They want a Mr. Olympia that's going to be popular. He's going to be personable. He's going to be able to go on TV shows. He's going to be able to do interviews. He's going to be able to connect with the people. And unfortunately, I don't think Ramy is in a place yet to do that. I don't think that's the way competition should be judged. I don't think that should factor into it. I think bodybuilding should be bodybuilding, and it should be completely objective on the fact of physiques alone and no other factors. But if we want to pretend that these things don't factor in, we're just being ignorant. So in my opinion, I think when the judges are sitting there judging, or whoever's really running this show, in the back of their mind the entire time when they're judging that show, I think they're thinking, is the person that we pick going to be a good representative for the IFBB? Is the person that we have as the winner for this show going to be a person that is going to further this sport? So I think what it comes down to is, are they going to pick the biggest, freakiest, most muscular guy on stage that can't speak English? Or are they going to pick the arguably most complete bodybuilder, Phil Heath, that speaks English, he interacts with his fans, he's very active on social media, he has a massive following, and so far he has done a pretty good job of promoting the sport of bodybuilding. He's had a couple low points where he's gotten into fights with fans and stuff on social media, but for the most part, he communicates well, he speaks good English, and for the most part, he's been a good representative of the sport of bodybuilding. So I think when it comes down to that decision, are we going to pick the biggest, freakiest guy that can't speak English or the most complete guy that can speak English? I think they pick the safe choice and go with the defending champ, Phil Heath. Again, the defending Mr. Olympia always has the edge. So if it's kind of a toss-up between the two, I think they're always going to go with the defending champ because it's kind of like the safe bet. So I think that's basically how it is. Not to mention the fact that Big Ramy hasn't even cracked the top 3 yet. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with my prediction. No, he is not going to win the 2017 Olympia. Do I think he will win an Olympia at some point in time? Absolutely, yes. At some point in time when he perfects his English, he's going to win an Olympia. I mean, the guy's still pretty young. He's got plenty of time. I think definitely there's an Olympia win in his future. So I don't think that's impossible. So I don't think I don't think he's really in any hurry to win an Olympia right now. I think he's definitely going to win one in the future. So my personal opinion, Big Ramy's not going to win this year. Probably not going to win next year. But probably within the next 5 years, I think Big Ramy will win an Olympia. So that's my opinion on Big Ramy. Yes, he looks big. Yes, he looks freaky. Yes, he looks unbelievable. But we have this conversation every single year leading into the Olympia. He always posts some crazy pictures. There's always some crazy update. There's always some crazy, maybe Chris Azito or whoever's training him is going to say, oh, he's weighing 350 right now. He's weighing 360. He's got some crazy scale weight or whatever. And everyone's all hyped going to the Olympia. Then Big Ramy places 4th or 5th or whatever. So we'll see when 2017 Olympia comes around. But personally, I think it's going to be hard for him to even be in the top 3 because his problem is conditioning, and I don't think he's going to come in conditioned. So the problem of conditioning with the fact that he doesn't speak English, that is going to be his main issue. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Please give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.